Hello everyone, my name is Rock, and I've owned my tabletop arcade from the Arcade Guys for a couple of weeks now. In this video, I'll talk about who should consider buying this system, what's included, demonstrate some gameplay, give my lists of pros and cons, and we'll finish up with some tips and tricks for this system. My goal is to help you make the best buying decision if you're in the market for an arcade cabinet. So who is the target audience for this cabinet? I can tell you that I'm 50-something years old, and I grew up saving my allowance so I could drop quarters into the early 80s arcade machines. As an adult, I love watching YouTube videos of home arcade cabinet collections and basement arcades. These people are dedicated. This hobby takes a lot of time, money, skill, and floor space, none of which I really wanted to sign up for. Nor did I want to try and convince my wife that this was a good idea. I figured that a good compromise would be to get an all-in-one cabinet, but after some thought, I really didn't want a system that takes up as much room as a stand-up cabinet. I actually thought of building my own RetroPie emulator, but I got way too intimidated. This is where the tabletop arcade seemed like an amazing fit. The price and size are both reasonable, and the unit doesn't require any floor space. And while the thousands of console games included are a nice bonus, my focus is definitely on the classic arcade games, primarily from 1980 to 1984. I also knew that I'll be playing solo the vast majority of the time, so a two-player machine is more than enough for me. Let's talk about the ordering experience. My communication with the Arcade Guys, even before the sale, was excellent. They answered all of my questions thoroughly and in a reasonable amount of time. I asked questions like these. Does this system include the same interface and games as a stand-up console? Yes, it does. Can you install a trackball on this system? No, not an integrated one. And can it be wrapped? There were limited options. There really wasn't anything I was interested in as far as wrapping it goes. One thing that I strongly suggest is watching the videos posted by the Arcade Guys while waiting for your system to arrive. I did so, and I took notes as I went, especially since I had never used a RetroPie system. This little bit of preparation was enjoyable and made everything go super smoothly once the system arrived. So what's in the box? Well, the unit itself is 26.5 inches long, 5.5 inches tall, and just under 11 inches deep. It includes all of the following: the tabletop arcade cabinet with 2 joysticks, a select and start button for each player, and 6 gameplay buttons for each player. Raspberry Pi 4 with a built-in fan, power switch, and power supply. Extra buttons, micro HDMI to HDMI cable, and a button cheat sheet. There are 4 USB ports, 2 are in use to start, but you can add console controllers to the extra ports if you'd like. And do note that a monitor is not included. The interface and gameplay are nearly flawless. If you've seen any of the reviews for the Arcade Guys cabinets, you've likely seen the interface and number of games that are included. The bezels are beautiful and help to enhance any screen space that otherwise would be blank, and the graphics and sounds are exactly as I remember them. I currently have about 30 classic arcade games in my favorites list that I tend to play the most, but I keep discovering others that are really fun to play as well. I did say that the interface and gameplay are nearly flawless. Some games are included but aren't ideal for joystick and button play. Games like Tempest, which really works best with a paddle controller, Pole Position, or any steering wheel games, as well as some trackball games. And I haven't figured out a way to get Robotron 2084 to work as a twin stick shooter the way it was originally designed. With those exceptions out of the way, the vast majority of games included play extremely well with the provided joysticks and buttons. Let's talk about the pros and cons, with the pros first, the biggest being the size and price, and this device is somewhat portable, at least within the house. It's truly plug and play. You get up and running in no time. The number of quality games is just amazing. You have the ability to customize controls for each game, and be sure to check out the Arcade Guys YouTube channel for specifics on this and many other features. The interface, bezels, and collection layouts are beautiful and easy to navigate. And you have the ability to set joysticks to 4-way or 8-way. The buttons are super responsive and they include spares. And support. I actually ran into problems with one of the joysticks and I received excellent telephone support. They were friendly and knowledgeable and ended up shipping me a replacement joystick. They were also able to answer a few other questions that I had and sent me links to more detailed information once we got off the phone. And now the cons. There is no integrated trackball option. As I mentioned earlier, some games don't have great control options. Now the box itself is made of particle board, which is really what you'd expect for the price, but just to make everyone aware of that and that it can get dinged up a little bit. My last con on the list is Star Castle, which was a pretty popular game in the early 80s, isn't part of this system, at least not yet. My first tip is one that I haven't done yet, but consider replacing the double-faced tape that secures the Raspberry Pi with a Velcro, which will give you access to the microSD card so you can make a backup copy. And I keep saying this, but take the time to watch the videos posted on the Arcade Guys channel. They'll save you time and potential frustration. If you're not using this system for fighting games, configure one joystick as 4-way and the other as 8-way. Using the 8-way configuration for a 4-way game, like Pac-Man or Donkey Kong, impacts your accuracy, and using a 4-way configuration for an 8-way game, like 1942 or Berserk, is even worse than that. I'm an Excel nerd, so of course I created a spreadsheet showing how controls are mapped, whether a game uses a 4-way or 8-way joystick, and any other notes that I want to remember. Pressing Select plus X pauses any game and provides many more options. Again, watch those videos to learn more. Quick System Select is on by default. This allows you to point the joystick left or right while scrolling up and down within a collection in order to quickly switch to another collection. Sounds good, but I found that I kept accidentally switching between collections, so I turned this off. I set Start on System as Favorites, so it'll always launch directly to my Favorites collection. And one last thing is that it's easy to add a wired console controller. It may make sense to use for some games, especially console games. In summary, I have exactly 0 buyer's remorse for this purchase. The value for the money, the small footprint, and the volume of quality arcade games has me believing that I'll enjoy this system for many years. When new versions of the software come out, probably a couple of times each year, you can mail in your backup microSD card along with a return mailer, and the Arcade Guys will flash your card to the latest image. Well, thank you so much for watching, and if you have any questions for me, please post them in the comments below and I'll do my best to answer them.